We're moving along to the section that creates the most of all the controversies, much temperance. And we are going to find the biblical principle again in the book of Genesis. When God said to man, eat of every tree of the garden freely, but don't eat of the tree that will give you a knowledge of the evil apart from the good, because you will die. Now, it's not that God is restrictive. It is the same concept that I might have with my child when he's trying to actually put his fingers inside a PowerPoint. I said, don't go near. You can touch any other thing in this room, but don't go near the PowerPoint, because you might actually have a concept of evil as well as a concept of good. But nowadays, the concept of temperance has been a bit manipulated. Temperance nowadays is of everything just in moderation. If you are a father here, would you give a little marijuana to your child just in moderation? Would you give a bit of tequila to your child just in moderation? So obviously there's a lot of loopholes in that concept of moderation. And what we are going to expose today is the true meaning, dictionary meaning, and biblical meaning of true temperance. And in that, we have two categories here. One is the moderation bit, and the other one is the no thank you bit. In other words, of the good in moderation. Of the bad, what's the point? Of the bad, don't even go near, because it will give you experience of evil, a part of your concept of good. And we are going to develop this as we go along. The first thing that we are going to actually establish is the don'ts, or the no thank you. We need to be polite when they are asking us to be partakers of something that is not good for our health. The first one is alcohol. In moderation, well, we'll see. We call it, how do we call it in moderation? We call it social drinking. Now, I don't know how many here know about the French red wine and the French paradox. I'll explain to you what it is. According to a study that was done some years ago on the French population, that discovered that the French had less cases of heart disease than the Americans. When they compare the diet of both countries and both set of populations, they discovered that there was something in their diet that appeared to be responsible for the French people to be healthier in terms of their heart condition when you compare it with the American population. And that something was the Mediterranean red wine. I remember I was in a wedding a couple of years ago. It was the wedding of my sister-in-law. And we were down there, and everybody was taking photos, waiting for the restaurant to open. And I was outside, and I decided to start talking with a gentleman that I didn't know that was next to me. He was actually friends of the bridegroom. I was friends with the brother-in-law of the bride. Now, I started talking to this gentleman, and this gentleman just happened to be a highly qualified winemaker. And because I grew up in Spain, I knew a little bit of winemaking, American oak conservation, etc. So the man was so pleased because here in Australia, being a beer country and not a wine country, there is not many people that can actually establish a conversation and talk about wine and the different levels of quality, etc. So the man was delighted. For about 20 minutes, we talked about it until the restaurant was opened and the bar of the restaurant was open. Now, when that happened, this gentleman that was so appreciative of my conversation said to me, "Come on along, I'm going to pay a nice glass of red wine for you." And I said to him, "Sorry, but I don't drink." After 20 minutes of conversation about wine, this man obviously was all puzzled. "What do you mean you don't drink? We've just been talking about wine and winemaking for the last 20 minutes. And I said, "Yeah, but I don't drink." And you know what he said? He actually brought the French paradox to me. And he said, but that's good for the heart. And I said to him, friend, is it red wine or white wine? And you know what he did? He laughed. And he said to me, oh, is the red wine. Wow. Why is the red wine and not the white one? He says, because of a particular element in the grape, in the dark grape, that actually allows the blood not to coagulate that much. So I said to him, so you mean that if I have a dark grape juice, I can have the same benefits? And he laughed because he noticed that I already knew that information that he was sharing with me. And he said, you know, Oscar, it is a marketing device. We winemakers have been using that for the last 10 years as a marketing device. But it's actually not based on science, but on business making. So that goes the French paradox for you. For those that are religious and think that for a moment that actually Christ himself drank fermented wine, let me tell you, there is no place in the scriptures where fermented wine is attributed to the spotless blood of Christ. In fact, it was the new wine or unfermented grape juice that was used in ceremonies or religious ceremonies and the Passover also. Still today, the kosher wine for the Passover is unfermented. But we are going to see what the Bible actually says about wine. It says that wine is a mocker. The strong drink is a bridler. And whoever is led astray by it is not wise. So if we are social drinking with wine, the Bible is telling us that we are not part of the wise people. Don't look on the wine when it's red. So even if it has all these qualities about not coagulating blood, etc., don't look at it even if it's red. I would recommend you don't look at it even if it's white. When it sparkles in the cup, that means champagne goes out of the window. When it strings around smoothly, at the last, it bites like a serpent and stings like a viper. Let me tell you, for those that are not aware, that a serpent and a viper are representatives of Satan, according to the Bible. They're symbols of Satan. In the English language, when it's not wine, it's actually spirit or spirits. That's interesting also. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will utter perverse things, saying, they have struck me, but I was not hurt. They have beaten me, but I did not feel it. When shall I awake that I might seek another drink? That's what the Bible actually says about alcohol drinking. It deprives the reasoning of the mind. And some of the side effects of alcohol use is high blood pressure, stroke, heart problems, elevated triglycerides, impaired sexual function, low blood sugar, vitamin and mineral deficiency, chronic fatigue, ketoacidosis, osteoporosis, gout. Whoa, we got easy words here. Rhabdomyolysis, body weight control, anemia, decreased number of blood platelets, increased severity and duration of menstrual cramps, social side effects. And those are very real, the social side effects of alcohol. And the results of social drinking or social alcohol usage are from hypertension, stroke, decreased immune function, accidents, suicide, breast cancer, colon cancer, menstrual pain, osteoporosis, obesity, gastritis, gout, chronic fatigue, cerebral atrophy, fatal alcohol syndrome, leukemia in offspring, potentiates heavy drinking, decreases judgment, foresight, moral reasoning. And that's very clear when the studies are showing that alcohol use is negative to the health. Nevertheless, those that want to drink it, despite the information, they still drink it. If you have a whole bucket full of tequila and you bring a horse here and you tell the horse to drink the tequila, the horse won't drink it. You need to force the horse to drink the tequila. The human beings pay $5 per glass. Nobody's forcing them. They even pay for it. At times, we can say that our reasoning has been impaired so much through alcohol that we become worse than animals. During the next 24 hours, alcohol will be responsible for nearly half of the homicides, the people who will die on the highway, the people who will be admitted to the hospital, the people who will be incarcerated in jail or prison, the babies who will be born with birth defects, the people who will be arrested for domestic violence. Those are real side effects of alcohol. And the truth of the matter is that if I drink just a little bit, that little bit is opening the doors for the next generation to drink a bit more. And how many parents are being upset because their 12-year-old boy or girl are already drinking without realizing that the ones that opened the door for that drinking were themselves? The World Health Organization says also no to alcohol. And it says alcohol consumption causes some of the world's most serious health problems. Drinking adversely affects a significant proportion of the population, not just a minority of alcoholics or heavy drinkers. Light drinking is unlikely to lower heart disease risk in people who are already taking other lifestyle precautions like exercising regularly, no smoking, and eating less fat. This is the World Health Organization that is already putting to the ground the French paradox. He also says the reality of the situation, that the publicity given to the use of moderate amounts of alcohol for heart disease prevention is not the result of rigorous scientific research, but is to a large extent inspired by commercial purposes. So businesses are behind this. Money making is behind this, and it's all at the cost of your own health and the health of your family. The less you drink, the better, says the World Health Organization. So when we're talking about temperance, no thank you when we're talking about alcohol. Now, the next one is caffeine. Now, caffeine is a tricky one because, friend, if I take the caffeine away from you in the morning, how are you going to go through the day? I might be a criminal in your eyes. But how many of those coffee drinkers are not aware of the consequences of caffeine? To a start, caffeine is highly addictive. It has withdrawal symptoms as when you have a drug addiction. Every time that you try to quit, it's a battle. And we are going to look at some of those things now. Even small amounts of regular caffeine consumption increases the risk of certain cancers, including kidney, breast, pancreas, ovary, bladder, and colon. So even small amounts. Now, this particular research actually declares that the amount is so little that just a cup of coffee daily is that amount. That small amount is just a simple cup of coffee with milk in the morning. Laboratory studies demonstrate that caffeine and its relatives are capable of damaging the chromosomes of both plants and animals, and therefore it causes an avalanche of events for cancer development in your own body. Now, did you know what theobromide is? It's actually a caffeine relative found especially in chocolate. Chocolate has actually a casein of caffeine. And 20 milligrams of this casein of caffeine is nothing more than just a little bar of chocolate. In fact, probably half of it has already those 20 milligrams of chocolate. And it says that doubles the risk of prostate cancer. And I know what you're going to say if you're a female. That doesn't apply to you. Well, do you want to wait for the next study? Do you want to wait? remember that if it's already affecting the prostate, you might not have a prostate being a female, but technically speaking, the principle behind it is that it's attacking part of the reproductive organs. So in your case, it can be something else, but nevertheless, it's going to be affecting. Somebody said to me that that was the forbidden fruit, chocolate, because women cannot resist it. Now, does chocolate have caffeine? We can say no. It only has the casein of it. So caffeine and the increased risk of miscarriages, low birth weight, babies, worsening depression, anxiety and fatigue, elevated blood pressure, heart palpitations, heart disease, bone loss and osteoporosis, heartburn, premenstrual syndrome, PMS. Now, those are side effects of caffeine. You might say, but it feels good in the morning. If I don't drink it, I can't go through the day. Now, if you know these side effects, and you know how bad caffeine can actually be to your own body, and nevertheless you keep on drinking, we can include one here that is not listed. And that one is actually impairs your reason. It acts in such a way that though you know consciously that is not good for you, nevertheless you still drink it. So you affects directly what we call this area in the brain at the front called the frontal lobe, which is the decision-making of your whole body. It is the one part of the body that determines what is right and what is wrong and helps you make a decision and stand on that decision. So the fact that that reason is telling you that it is bad and nevertheless you still drink it is an evidence that this caffeine has a highly addictive effect in the human body and also impairs the decision making. So somebody is, this caffeine is actually putting people in bondage rather than giving them freedom of choice. The next one is tobacco. And talking about decision making and decision of choice, a friend of mine went to Turkey, entered into a shop, and over there in Turkey they sell tobacco at the shops, any shop. And this gentleman from Turkey came inside the shop and asked for a packet of cigarettes. And obviously in that packet, in Turkey also, they had all these labels, how bad tobacco is for you. So the one that actually was given to him read, tobacco can actually impair your sexual activity. This gentleman looked at it, read it, got all panicked, gave it back to the person behind the counter and said, I don't like this one, give me that one there. So he actually changed the box. Isn't it the same thing? It's still tobacco, isn't it? That shows you how these addictive substances affect your reason and your decision making. You want to quit, but you can't quit. You want to live it up. You have seen all the images, and we are not going to see these images today. I think it's enough information that even if I stop now, you already know that tobacco is bad for you. If you know how to read the packet, you already know it's bad for you. But something is beyond that, isn't it? It's so strong, it has so much power on your mind and your body that you can't quit. That tells you how bad it is. It's not a small little thing. It's not a small cigarette. It's nothing important. It is a big thing when you can't determine to quit, to leave it. The Bible says, you shall not murder. In fact, you shall not murder even if it is slow beats at a time. So, how do you overcome the addiction? And we are going to give you a number of points here to help you. We're not going to tell you here that tobacco is bad. You could tell me that as well as I can tell you. But we are going to see a number of points to overcome this addiction. Well, first of all, before we actually read these points, first of all, the highest success of quitting tobacco is what we call cold turkey. Once and for all, rather than slowly through patches, through chewing gum, etc. A determination of the will. Remember that tobacco has a power on your will, on your frontal lobe, but a determination on the will that you won't have another smoke, and this is final, and this is from today. So the first point is choose not to smoke. You might not believe this, but God has given you the power to choose. You might not feel like it. You might think it's impossible. You might think the addiction is so strong on you that you will never be able to leave it. But nevertheless, God has given you the ability to choose. And every time that you're feeling tempted, you can choose not to have another smoke. No hidden cigarettes. Now, you need to be honest with yourself. Is quitting, is leaving it, is serious decision and commitment. So, the moment you start hiding cigarettes, you already know that decision, right from the beginning, failed. You don't need to go to point 3, it failed on point 1. So, no hidden cigarettes. Deep breathing. Remember, if you go back to the section of pure air and breathing, deep breathing. Every time that you feel tempted, go outside, go for a walk, and start breathing deeply. Okay? Daily exercise. This is very, very important. Many people don't quit smoking because they will put on weight. The reason why they put on weight is not because they're quitting smoking. It's because rather than smoke, they start eating more. And rather than smoke, they eat while they're sitting down. But if you don't eat instead of the smoke, but rather go for a walk or go for a run, you don't need to put on weight. In fact, you will be more tuned up. It will help you with the detox. Your skin will start pouring all those toxins out. You'll have a nice cool shower, and you'll feel much refreshed, and you will overcome each time, every step of the time, every temptation. So exercise daily. Get more sleep. Go early to bed. Try to sleep. Get up in the morning at the proper time. Go to bed at night at the proper time also. Drink plenty of water and cleanliness. See, what is going to happen to your body? You are going to go through a whole detox as you are quitting. So you want to make sure that you're having regular showers. For 2, 3, 4 weeks, you might actually have to have 2 showers a day. Okay? Exercise cleanliness. Cleanliness in the house also. Make a conscious decision. So clean the house, not just of cigarettes, but also of the smell of it. Change the curtains. Change the carpet if you have to. Bring a carpet cleaner and put new smell and fragrance in the house. Make it clean rather than the stank of tobacco in the house. So cleanliness all around you. Tidiness all around you. Avoid caffeine, alcohol, and heavy meal spicy foods. Why? Because those are triggers. Isn't that interesting that we talked about caffeine and we talk about alcohol, and those are actually going always, most of the time, together with smoking. You have the smoke, you have the coffee, and you have the alcohol. So don't quit one without the other. It's a whole lifestyle change. You're quitting alcohol, you're quitting smoking, but you're changing your life for the better. Avoid the triggers. What are the triggers? The triggers are the special sofa that you used to sit, the special place where you feel more comfortable smoking. The morning breaks at work where everybody goes outside, gathers together around a circle, and they all start smoking. Avoid the triggers, okay? And then it says, you are not a quitter, but an overcomer. I mean, I like oxymorons, and I think when we're talking about quitting smoking, I think that was invented by a smoker. It's like you're not brave enough to continue smoking, so you're quitting. That's what it means. It means that you're a chicken. You cannot keep on going. You're not strong enough, so you're quitting. No, but that's not the reality. The reality is that you're not quitting anything. You have made a commitment to continue on. You are an overcomer, and you are going to be let free from that bondage of cigarettes. The next one that we have here is meat. Now, we are going to show you a number of references, a number of information in regards to meat. I am a vegetarian, and I do advertise vegetarianism, healthy vegetarianism. But I also like to give the reason why. So we are going to start with the meat of today. It will be not very long before we shall have to give up using animal food. Disease is accumulating rapidly. Now, if you have a set of TV in the house, you have been watching the news, reading the newspapers, you can tell that this statement is totally true, especially true nowadays. Now, we're talking at a time now where the swine flu is the panic attack around. But before that, it was the bird flu, and before that was the foot and mouth disease, and before that was the mad cow disease. And the amazing thing is that all of them together, according to the scientists, the biggest effects or the biggest consequences of those cases we still haven't seen. In fact, mad cow disease, though it was 10 years ago, it is reported that it won't happen, the big epidemic won't happen until another 15 years or so, when that meat that was consumed by many, many people will slowly but surely do the damage in the nervous system of those individuals. And we will see the big effect of those meat-eating habits. Often animals are taken to market and sold for food when they are so diseased that their owners fear to keep them longer. And we have seen the reports in the newspapers. That happened with the foot and mouth disease in England. When they actually noticed that some of the lambs and some of the sheep were getting sick, before losing the whole of the flock, they will quickly put them in the truck and send them to the markets to be consumed by us. The effect of a flesh diet might not be immediately realized, but this is not evidence that it's not harmful. As I said, it's still another 10 years to go in order to see the results of the meat that was consumed during the 90s and the first decade of the year 2000. Cancers, tumors, and all inflammatory diseases are largely caused by meat eating. And I decided to include this one here. This was an article found in the Sydney Morning Herald, I believe. In Sydney, the harbour was actually closed for fishing due to the high levels of toxicity in the water. Now, more and more cancers are appearing in fishes. More and more diseases, even skin diseases and liver cancers from all these catches. And the harbour in Sydney was closed 2 years ago because of that. Closed for fishing because the high toxicity levels in the fish. The fish has the capability to actually rise up 1,000 times the toxicity levels of the water that is around them. So heavy metals like mercury and aluminium, pesticides, and many others are actually found in fish. Drugs. We're just going to move quickly on this section here. We're talking here about illegal drugs and the abuse of legal drugs. What I'm talking about the abuse is the drug might have, the prescribed or the prescription drug might have a purpose for a particular time, but is not the cure of the problem. It's not the cure of the problem. We need to find the cause of the problem, so through hygienic practices in diet, water, exercise, etc., the condition can be reversed for much healthier lifestyle. Okay, so we're talking about abuse of illegal and even abuse of legal drugs here. And the last one that we got here is snacks, or eating between meals. Now, there is a research done in terms of the link between the amount of times that we eat during the day with colon cancer. If we eat 4 times a day, it has double the risk of colon cancer as if we eat only 3 or 2 times a day. And in fact, the more you eat through the day, the less energy you will have. And I'm going to give you the reason for it. When you have a dinner by yourself and you have a dishwashing machine in your house, you only use 1 plate. Let's go to say that you only use 1 plate. You get with that plate, you put it in the dishwashing machine, you press start. Is it because it's just 1 plate that the dishwashing machine only goes for half a cycle? Or only goes for 1/4 of a cycle? Or only for 10 minutes? No. The dishwashing machine will go for the whole cycle. The same thing, if you eat your breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, and at 10 o'clock, you start eating the most healthiest organic carrot that you can find in the market. The truth of the matter is that small carrot, it still sets the whole system on. So for this amount of energy that this carrot is going to give you, you still require this amount of energy from your body to digest it. So the more you eat through the day, the more exhausted you will be at the end of the day, because your body is continuously working. If you eat a breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning and you wait 5 hours and you eat your lunch at 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you wait another 5 hours and you eat a piece of fruit or a couple of pieces of fruit before you go to bed, about 3 hours before you go to bed, if they check your stomach by 7 o'clock at night, there is no evidences of your breakfast there. Everything has been digested, everything has been moving forward. But on the contrary, if you eat your breakfast at 7 o'clock and then at 9:30 you eat your morning tea, and then at 12:30 you eat a little bit of a snack, and then every 2 or 3 hours you start eating things before allowing that breakfast to have the 5 hours of digestion time, by 7, 8 o'clock at night, if they check your stomach, you will still have evidences of your breakfast in your stomach. In moderation, what are we talking about? We're talking about moderation even on the good. Everything that is good, in moderation. I love avocados, but if I eat 10 of them, I'll get sick. That's not moderation. Moderation in work. How many families have been destroyed because father did not have moderation in terms of work? And moderation on recreation. How many families have been going bankrupt because father thought of recreation or entertainment rather than working? So how many children have become disobedient to parents just because there's no useful labor in the house, it's only play, play, play? So we need to have moderation even on the good things or even on recreation.